All right, let me just double check on YouTube and make sure I see it there. And hang on one second. Want to make sure I see it. Not seeing it yet. Hang on. And there it is. All right, I think we are live. So we're ready to start class. And yes, I got a note that we're on Facebook as well. So all right, we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and get started. And I will start by reading the topic for today and the key lesson. And then I'll hand it over to Guy. Our topic today is want what life wants and find the peace that passes all understanding. Here's the key lesson. There is no relief from the conflict and grief born of unrealized self-ignorance, which is why it's wise to seek self-knowledge. All right, Guy, I'll hand it to you.
Thanks, Kate. Little adjustment on my screen. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in the world. I'm glad that we have this time together, as I'm always glad to share this space and these ideas that we continue to explore, discover, and God willing, realize as essential aspects of our own interior real life. Before I read the second key lesson, I want to beg, as it were, for your forbearance, because I have so much material that I want to share with you this morning, whenever it is you're watching this. And I trust you'll find it worthwhile to stay with me. In the period of an hour, I hope to be able to explain to you actually the very truth behind the riddle of the Sphinx, why no one was ever able to actually answer that. I want to be able to share with you the meaning of the parable in the New Testament where a woman gave a single penny and Christ said that none have given anything greater than she. I want to look at the parable of the 3 talents. If I have time to do that, I intend to do it. And tied into all of that, an insight from the Tao that serves to marry and prove all the things that I intend to share with you. And I want to stress this. For God's sake, please do not assume that you understand what I'm saying. There is the moment of seeing, and that is what understanding is. This knowledge is not the understanding of it. Test everything. Believe nothing that I say, but find out for yourself through exploration whether or not there is truth behind it. Because if you take those steps, you will begin for yourself to enter into the same kingdom within yourself from out of which comes this understanding, and that you and I are intended to live within and have it live within us. So let's get started. Can't spare any moment with superfluous commentary. Here's the second key lesson, sets the stage for our work together. The hardest thing in the world is to quietly do what life asks of you. But if you attend to this first divine desire, all else is added and you shall not want. But if you attend to this first divine desire, all else is added and you shall not want. Thanks, Eric. What an idea. A whole of our life is predicated on what we want and don't want, and yet in every scripture, east and west, there is this promise of another understanding, another level of our own being, where we have no wants or not wants that determine the experience of our life, as it does now. Quick story from, I think it was my book, The Lost Secrets of Prayer, but I want to set the stage with it. A little girl is in art class, and teacher's walking around and she's told the students to draw a field with the sun and a tree, and everybody's there working away, and our little girl, who represents our present level of understanding, sitting there. But she's kind of not interested in what everybody else is doing. She already has an assumptive, egoic stance that tells her she's better and different than everyone else, so she's busy. But as she works, she looks around and she sees that what she's doing has very little resemblance, not only to what the teacher has asked, what the moment has asked, but what the other students are doing. Teacher walks by and sees this. Can I help you with this? Do you want any instruction? No, I don't need any help. That's the first thing we all say. We're so full of ourselves. I don't need any help. But about the third time through, because I have to go through the story quickly, the little girl can see that what she has created there is actually a miscreation. She recognizes that what she has done is not what life has asked her to do. And so she goes to the teacher, she raises her hand and says, will you please help me understand what it is that's going on? Because without using the word, she says, I need relief from the pain of what I have miscreated out of my misunderstanding. I need relief from the pain of what I have created out of my misunderstanding of what life has asked me to do. Now, please take that idea and with me for a moment, we're just going to make just a tiny quick list. What are some of the things in your life that you want relief from? Let's just take 2 minutes. You can put it on the board there. Students at home, students abroad, wherever you are, what are some of the things that you want relief from? How about relief from people that bug you? Relief from circumstances that challenge you. Here comes some. FYI, I want relief from that noise, that rubbing. My bad, I was holding the key lesson in my hand. There, your wish is solved. What are some of the things that you want relief from? How about relief from your past? Relief from the sense of not being good enough. Relief from the feeling, release from doubt. I would like to be released from doubt, Denise says. Released from this fact that I didn't become I was supposed to become in life. Release from future scenarios that have fear in them. Just 2 more, and then everybody will get the message. I mustn't take too much time with this. Yeah, Frida, I would like to be relief from this tension in my body. I'm always tense. I'd write relief from my anxiety, relief from all these thoughts that never stop running through my. How about relief from the fact that I can't sleep? Any one of 1,000 different things. Relief from financial insecurity. Okay, let's hold at that now. Thank you. I think if we look at these, we can all agree that in one degree, yes, certainly release from emotional pain. We can all agree that we all have moments where we want this relief. They're not consistent. They appear with the conditions that produce, to the point of this talk, a sudden sense of disturbance in our life. But here's where we must look at something, and we must look at it quickly. Come back and listen to this if you haven't been listening to me so you can understand it. We know that we cannot separate these unwanted conditions in our life from which we want relief from the level of consciousness that doesn't want those moments. So that what we really want relief from is not the moment itself, but the consciousness that meets that moment that doesn't know what to do with it except resist it. And this is key for us to understand. The disturbance that we seek relief from begins with the resistance this consciousness has to any condition that challenges it. This is such an important idea, but I can't spend any more time on it right now. So what we're really saying each time we're troubled and seek relief from this experience, that what we really want relief from, I'll ask you, the answer is stunning. I want relief from the unseen parts of myself in this consciousness that over time have wanted and attracted into my life those conditions I thought when I was seeking relief would bring me contentment. So I keep imagining and creating the next canary, the next condition, the next desire, the next image, with the idea that that's where relief will be found. And from these desires and images that I pursue, I make a life for myself. But then I find out that the life I've made for myself is full of conflict because life keeps challenging what I have brought into my life to free me from the very conflict I'm in as I'm going through all of this. So I want you to see, if you can, ever so briefly, there is this loop of reincarnating conflict that is the product of a consciousness that's asleep to itself as it keeps reimagining freedom from the experiences it doesn't want. So simply said again, we want relief from this cycle of on again, off again conflict, where one moment we're content, the next minute I have to defend not just what I think I have, but I have to defend what I imagine I still need in order to be free. So in that on again, off again conflict, there is this constant shaky sense of myself that is being unconsciously, without knowing it, identified with every last movement of thought that comes when suddenly there's a disturbance and now I've got to get in and deal with that again. So if you're following me in the first 9 minutes, we have to see, God willing, and you've begun, or I doubt you would still be studying with me. At some point, this is a dead-end operation. Either, and this is for you to see, either I live with my life compromised. What is life compromised? Endlessly explaining, justifying some fear that I have, some sense of loss that may be coming or that took place. Accepting defeat as part of my life. That is a compromised life. That I'm going to cope with conditions. That is a compromised life. So that believing that either choice, to accept defeat or just agree that I've got to compromise all the way down, is like believing that the best life has to offer us is to suffer life for the sake of less than being half a human being. That's the mindset, without knowing it, when we sit and make compromises with ourselves and everyone else, is that this is the better of the two evils. Because at least I can keep some of this in place. I may have to lose a little, but by and large, in conflict, I'll choose which of these is superior, and then I'll suffer living with that conflict, believing that any choice this consciousness can make is going to deliver me from that dark state of accepting this constant state of compromise with life. It's just not true. That's why if you have any love at all in you of the truth, of God, of divine, of Buddha's nature, of Christ, if you have any love in you of what is true, it's because something refuses to recognize, let alone acquiesce to living with this conflict, even though we don't know what else to do, because we're constantly challenged as if we have to get back into it and make these excuses for why we act from weakness, as we all do. What's the alternative? That's what this work is about. It is with the help of higher self-knowledge, again, what we're looking at in this very moment, to see a certain kind of truth. And it's a truth that isn't very flattering for us to see, because it begins with recognizing that we do not understand the ceaseless, and it is ceaseless, disturbance. We don't understand the nature of what troubles us. You get with anybody instantaneously. We know what's wrong, and because we know what's wrong, we know what to do, and because we know what to do, we have the desire to act, and out of the desire to act, we're brought back into that cycle where, in time, the conditions that we have created, we're enabled to do that, prove to be insufficient one more time when the condition comes back around. So we imagine that we know the answer to this disturbance in us. We imagine it. You are the proof yourself, not because I say it. The proof that I imagine I know the answer to the disturbance is I'm disturbed. We should all wear t-shirts, I'm disturbed. Because we always are, unless we're eating, having sex, or watching the television, or are otherwise distracted on these silly things we hold in our hands that we're endlessly fascinated with some social conversation. Talk about ridiculous answers. So when we think we know the answer, we not only compound the initial disturbance and the conflict in us, but because we don't understand the real source of that pain, we never get close to the real solution, which means every answer we have to our present sense of being disturbed separates us, literally. Resistance can't learn. We separate ourselves from the very moment when the student is ready, the teacher appears. we, without knowing it, consent to be separated from being shown the solution, the real solution, born of the real understanding of this disturbance that is constant in our consciousness. 15 minutes in. Take a deep breath. I'll try to slow it down a little bit. I so much want to share all of this with you. And it is a single idea. What is true is not in thought. When you see the beauty of an afternoon, you watch the sun set behind the water, there is no thought about understanding it. There is unity between the observer and the observed. And everything that needs to be, in quotes, understood is contained in that very moment of being present to what life is awakening in you and showing that within you already lives the entirety of what you're seeing. You are what you see. We love it when we see beautiful things. We can't stand that idea when we see enmity and hatred. When we see people that we judge, we believe we are apart from what we judge. No, we are not apart from what we judge. Let me keep going. Transition time. Nice deep breath. Some of it's difficult. The medicine is bitter, but it heals. There is no escaping the disturbance, or I should say, there is no escaping the awareness of some order of disturbance in our consciousness. There is no escaping the awareness of some order of disturbance in our consciousness. To us, it seems that these disturbances are sort of connected to isolated instances, like everything's great until he did that, or I got there and this wasn't right. So we see this disturbance as kind of, it happens here and it happens there, but it's not true. When we get here or we get there and the conditions challenge what we've entered into the moment believing that we're owed, then suddenly we're aware of this disturbance, because the disturbance is the fact that suddenly we're resisting that condition. So this disturbance in our consciousness does not belong to some inconsistent experience produced by fluctuating conditions. That on again, off again thing is event driven, but we remain the constant ground of the experience of it. So in this unrest that we all feel, in that feeling is what? Life is at odds with what I want. I am at odds with life because it's threatening my peace of mind. So we always see what disturbs us as something that has come along to take from us what we have imagined we are and own. And then life says, let's check this out. I don't think it's quite the way you see it. And I go, no. And then I don't want to see that there is actually a conflict between life itself as it's unfolding and my consciousness. So that it's like, I know better than what God is doing with the whole universe, which is insane if you think about it. So that we have this feeling in these moments where this disturbance comes in, we're at odds. What is that we feel? I'm not getting... Slow down. I'm not getting what I'm owed. Whatever it is, I don't know that I think I'm owed that, but the minute I don't get what life seems to take from me, suddenly I've got my hands wrapped around an idea, an image, a belief. I'm clinging to it because life owes me. It owes me. Now listen, the security I've imagined is security, even though I've achieved that 10,000 times in different ways and never felt secure. It owes me the love that I deserve, even though 10,000 times, because I believe I deserve love, I get people angry at people that don't give me what I want. I believe I'm owed approval. Don't you dare disrespect me. Don't you talk to me like that. Because if you talk to me like that, I'm not getting what life owes me, and what life owes me is the endless respect of every human being I ever meet. I could go on and on and on. So that we're always looking for relief from what we don't understand is the real disturbance. And the real disturbance is not the event. It is what the event is showing us we came into that moment believing we were owed. Now, big transition. Let's take a deep breath. I'll take a slug of my water. When these things happen, we believe, in order to find relief, I have to give myself the relief I deserve. And in the pursuit of relief is where blame begins, because I have to understand in order to continue blaming. So we constantly are giving to ourselves what we think life, God, the divine, has denied us. But here's the truth. This is why I say slow down. Life gives us life. Life gives us all of itself every moment. Everything that we can have and be is given to us in every moment of our life by what is divine in nature. But because we don't know what life is, but imagine we do, we are forever meeting that moment where life seems to deny us the life we've imagined we're owed. And when we feel denied the life we're owed, then we have the experience of being betrayed or denied. And then we feel like we're missing out on something because of what life is taking from us or denying us. And when I feel like life's missing out, what do? I start thinking about, I react to all of that, and I come up with all of the next solutions, all of the new wants that time and time again have proven to not really bring an end to the relief, not really bring the relief, but exacerbate the attachment made to those desires that drive this thing over and over again through the same cycle. And we don't learn the lesson, do we? But one thing, many things, but one thing should be evident. And I talk about this all the time. I'm going to fly through it rather quickly. You've heard the expression, as above, so below. All of us understand that. What does that mean, as above, so below? Well, below, here in nature, in life, we can see that there is not one thing that life gives to, the sun gives to the flowers, the trees, the grass. There's not one thing that the grass gives to the animal that eats it. Everything that nature does is an act of something that is being given to a creature, and that creature receives what it is given, and as it is given, it gives back. So there is a ceaseless exchange between all of life, the great circle of life in nature. But the circle of life in nature is just one of the circles of life, because that belongs itself to a greater circle. As the branch, the vine, so the circle of life belongs to a celestial circle, where everything is constantly being renewed and reborn, so that we can begin to recognize, if I'm making a connection with this at all, is that life gives life in exchange for life. Surely you can see that. Life gives life in exchange for life. Animals cannot think to themselves, a tree can't go, I'm going to exchange this for life, but it takes it in and it is reborn, it is reconstituted always. We as human beings have to understand that if life gives life in exchange for life, get ready, then we have to ask ourselves a question that one day we'll have to answer if we ever want to know the peace that passes understanding. You ready for the big question? What do we give back to life? There isn't one creature that doesn't serve life in its entirety. Living and dying as an individual instrument of a greater body, of a greater intelligence, a greater order of love, and that it serves life unerringly. It gives its life. It doesn't have a choice. It gives its life. You and I have a choice. And unfortunately, our choice is not to give ourselves to the life we're being given. We give ourselves to the life we give ourselves. We give our life to our conditioned demands and desires. We give our life over to every negative state, every action where we're suddenly angry or upset. We give our life over to the solutions that promise to end that suffering. And for all that we give, we get nothing. We get nothing other than, one more time through the same loop, what do we give back to life? Now, we're going to make a dive here. Take a deep breath. I want to show you something. What we give back to life, in quotes, is not what we have been taught by this world. Because for most of us, I can't tell you how many times I hear this and see it. I believe that because I give $10 to my church, Once a week I go and I serve sandwiches someplace, wishing I were someplace else, judging everyone in line. All of the things that we call giving back are not giving back. They're just justifying a certain sense that we have to do some things if we're going to be as privileged as we are, so that we don't understand the real giving back has nothing to do with what this world teaches. And that's why, for instance, in the New Testament, Christ told this parable. This is all about giving back, and then I'm going to explain. Here's this at the temple, and here's these Pharisees and Sadducees, and they've got shekels to throw around. They got dough, and they're giving their tithes and all the rest of that, and they're walking around, and they're pretty proud of themselves. People looking at them, look at me. I felt like Tom Hanks. Fire, I made fire. That in that moment, they're seeing themselves, oh, I'm so grand. I hope the rabbis see me. I hope God sees me. I'm giving up, one bazillionth of what I own, but I'm giving it, and it seems like a lot. And then this one old woman walks up, and she's got one penny, and it's her last penny. And she puts the last penny in that tithing dish, meaning she's giving something, she's sacrificing something. And Christ basically tells his parable, tells his students that nobody gives anything even remotely connected to what this woman has just given with one penny. So that blows out of the water the whole idea of the scale of things, the scale of giving back and all that. What was he saying when he said that? What life asks us to give back is one and the same as what we are asked to give up in every moment of our life. That's what giving back is. It's giving up in that moment of life what we are being shown as being asked to give up. That's what that one penny represents. Sell all and follow me. All of the images, east and west, connected to this one idea that there is a way in which life brings us these conditions. We think the conditions are asking us questions that we answer according to our conditioning, believing that now I must somehow either reclaim or get back what I've been given. So we never even question whether or not we are being asked to give something in the moment where it feels like something's being taken from us. God, if you could see this with me. What if every moment when it feels like life is trying to take something from you, what if you actually understood, not up here, that in that moment life isn't taking something from you, it's actually trying to give you something. But you can't know what life is trying to give you until you understand what life is asking you for. And what life is asking you for in that moment is to see with great clarity, in fact, in every moment of life, that the reason that you're in the conflict and the stress that you're experiencing is because in that moment you've come into that moment a fully conditioned, sleeping human being, unconsciously identified with all of these attachments, these images, and life brings this moment. Teacher appears and says to the student, look, that which you think is valuable is actually making you a victim. That which you cling to in order to feel secure is actually causing you to be in discomfort and disturbed all the time because it feels like something's being taken from you. God, what would it be like to live a life where a person never, ever felt like something was being taken from them, but understood with great clarity life? God never asked for anything that he doesn't give us in advance to give back, because that's the truth. But again, these words, they fall empty unless somebody has the ears to hear them, to start to understand. We're asked in these moments to play an individual role. In the moment where the will of heaven, that which is timeless and active, comes into the will of the earth, that which is passive and in time. So in comes this intelligent movement, this unthinkable action designed to reconcile everything that is incomplete on this earth, meaning in physicality, in thought, to reconcile all of that. It comes in, but before it can reconcile it, it has to reveal it. So that before I can be healed, what it is that has to be healed has to be revealed. It can't be concealed and be healed. So all of this movement, life, comes in and it reveals what is unreconciled, what is incomplete, what is old and carried over. These demands and these images we're identified with. And instead of understanding in that moment, life is saying, hey, Guy, slow it down. What is all of that about? You're reliving something from 20 years ago right now, or 20 minutes ago. Why are you reliving that? And I'll tell you what Guy would say, meaning this consciousness, our consciousness, it says, well, I'm reliving it because I have to get clear about what happened. Once it's clear, then I can make the choices based on the images that will free me from that disturbance. Except the disturbance never goes away because his consciousness is constantly in conflict. Do you understand? "35 minutes in. Let's start a little summary. This relationship, if you've understood it, between the active will of heaven on the passive will of earth, here's this active force on what by necessity, meaning it's matter, it's not movement, it's not, it is another order, it is another level of creation. That's what I want. Here is what is in essence created, and yet it is constantly creating in its energetic movement, and then it falls upon what has been created. And when this active force touches this passive earth, in that moment you can see it. There is a disparity. Here's something that is timeless, moving. Here is that which is in time, passive. And when these two things meet, there is, by the fact that they've met, a certain kind of resistance that takes place. It has to take place. In that moment where that takes place, there is a great disparity. There is a great inequality between what is heavenly and what is earthly, between the will of what is always reconciling out of love versus what is congealed out of attachment. So when these forces meet, and they meet in us, in our consciousness, not my consciousness, although we have the individual experience of it, depending upon our conditioning, attachments, and dependency, when that takes place, there is this immense disparity. That's the disturbance. That's the disturbance. And that's why no matter what we do to find relief from that disturbance, it can't be found. Because it is a heavenly disturbance, not an earthly one. But we don't get that. So this disparity, this inequality between the two is this original sense of our disturbance as what acts on what resists. You've heard the expression, an object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest doesn't want to be moved. Doesn't that describe you? I know it describes me. When I've got everything honky-dory, I'll be darned if I want anything to come along and disturb it. Because I've got it set. I got it all squared away. Just don't bother me. Let me get what I want, and then it doesn't matter what happens. The rest of you can go to you know where as long as I've got what I want. That's the mentality of a consciousness that believes the disturbance it experiences because something dark in the world has come in to take away what little, say that's it, what little peace I have. I don't know. You know, sometimes I wish while I was speaking that I was able to show you how juvenile, how self-ignorant it is to want a little peace. You're not created to have a little peace. You're created by the nature of peace itself. Love is perfect peace because love never stops reconciling all that comes out of it back into itself. There's no end to peace because there's no end to being aware of how the disturbance that seems to be the problem is already reconciling itself, even as I say these words. In every moment, that's taking place. But because we don't know this is true and we don't know what else to do, I hope you'll come that far with me. The unwanted experience of every disturbance, because of our divided nature, does the instant thing constantly, which is what? Here's the disturbance. What's that? Oh, I know what that is. And when I know what the disturbance is, where am I getting that information? Clearly, I'm cut off from the moment itself that could show me that it isn't a celestial event in an unconscious nature, trying to bring the light and the darkness into that darkness so that it can be join the light. No, not me. In that split second, I know for a fact, calling on my own conditioning to do what? I call on my own conditioning to tell me what's the source of that problem. And my conditioning, which is fully complete, tells me, well, I've been there, I've done that, I know this. Even if I don't know that person, I know what's wrong with them. So we pull from the content of our own conditioning, and that does two things at once. First, it explains why I'm uneasy. It explains why I'm angry. It explains why I'm full of pain. Imagine my own mind giving me all of the validation that it needs to make a victim of itself as it revisits the content of itself. It's breathtaking if you see it. So not only does it have a reason for the unrest, but at the same time it does, for every reason for the unrest called from my past, I have a corresponding desire that tells me, just do this and you get rid of the unwanted experience of that moment. And it doesn't work, does it? So let me begin to recapitulate some of this. What I'm calling the first desire. It's maybe a little tough to grasp, but if you listen, you'll see it with me, given what I've explained so far. The first desire is what? The first desire is the moment in which what is timeless, heavenly, undefined, meets what is in time and is itself defined. That moment where these two essentially archetype forces meet, they meet, and in that moment, something must come to bring about a balance between the yin and the yang, meaning that that which balances light, dark, good, bad, that which already balances it is there already, because these opposites came out of love. These opposites came out of what was whole. So it seems like they're separate, but they're not separate. And not only are they not separate, but they come together as they do, condition meets consciousness, for the sake of that consciousness to recognize that these conditions are not different than the mind that registers them. And if it understands the unity of these things, it understands the reconciliation is built into the moment that they meet. I don't have to do anything. And I'm not saying we don't do stuff. Look, I've got practical business to take care of. You're going to have to sort all that out. I can't do it in a talk. I can't hold your hand. You're a grown-up. Be grown up. In those moments, something in me tells me I must do something about what is going on inside of myself. But the only thing that would tell me I have to do something about what's going on inside of myself is an order of self that is not present to what actually is going on. It's not present. Hence the idea of practice the presence. The first desire comes into existence with the first separation of the opposites. And the first desire is to unite the opposites of heaven and earth, to bring active and passive, to create a new conception that then can go through that iteration endlessly, revealing, as it were, the endless love behind the function. But once again, just to cover it, this original innocent desire, I could give a whole talk just on those two words, innocent desire. For us, we have no innocent desires because every last desire is born out of the misunderstanding that I must complete myself through what I imagine. An innocent desire begins and ends with itself and the conditions that create it. That's an innocent desire. So in that moment, we must start to understand that this innocent desire is what? Now listen, we're going to take a little dive, but you'll see it. From one, here's the divine, here's love, comes two, the opposites. Here's one, the divine, first emanation, light, darkness, heaven and earth, first emanation, two. And from two come three, the marriage of the opposites, reconciled by love, and out of that love, a new conception. From one comes two, from two comes three, and from three comes one, because the three is one. This is the description of the Trinity. So we have this, if we can see it, if we have any vision at all, one day you won't have to think about this. You'll be the beginning anyway. It's always a beginning. And you'll be the beginning of the body of this illumination that never stops taking place. The Tao actually says the same thing. The Tao says, Tao gives birth to one, one gives birth to two, the two gives birth to three, the three gives birth to all universal things. And you and I are 1, 2, 3. Remember I said I would answer in part the idea of the riddle of the Sphinx? No one could answer the question because everybody thought the question had something to do with the condition the question was asking about. The question was never about what the mind flew to when it was threatened to be perished. If it didn't, the mind flew to outside of itself. The real question being asked by the Sphinx, in quote, which is what? Half man, half animal. Half human, half animal, the Sphinx. Meaning something that is half and half, not complete. And yet the answer completes the idea, just like Christ born in the stable amongst the animals. All of these myths and tales have the same truth hidden behind them, which is what? What is it that reconciles this animal nature, which we have, with what is heavenly? Or in this instance, what is angelic? What is the possibility of a human being and his or her soul to ascend to another level? It is the unity of these things. The unity of heaven and earth, of animal and human, of the two natures brought together for the purpose of revealing something that is greater than either of the parts. Something that is greater than either of the parts. This is why I say the angels are jealous of humanity. I don't know if someone made that up. I haven't found that out yet. But I can tell you, I can see for a fact that only a human being who goes far enough into shaking up this idea that life owes me something and recognizes that I'm actually being given something will ever understand this idea that which reveals what is animal-like, these unconscious desires and their demands, that light that reveals that clearly understands that the darkness that it lives in doesn't know itself, and that darkness can't choose for itself to be elevated into humanity. What is real humanity? I'll tell you what real humanity is. It is when a human being can no longer hurt another human being. Then you're close to being a human being. Not until then. Not even close. But this world will continue to find new definitions for humanity, 1,000 different ways to call yourself a human being, and every last one of them is a lie. Every last one of them is a distraction from the disturbance of being apart from what we are intended to live within and live for, which is this answering this question. So what's the real answer to the riddle of the Sphinx? Because every question that was posed had to do with something that had to be solved out inside. I am that I am. That's the answer. It's always the answer. I am that I am. Because if you can begin to understand what I'm talking about here, you can see, no matter what it is, whether it seems like it's out there, and it's not really out there, because I can't experience anything out there that's not in here. That's why Buddha said, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? He was saying there is a definitive mutual dependency between the different levels of existence, that one doesn't exist without the other. They are complementary opposites, and to be understood as that requires that only that which brings these opposites into existence, the sense of this and that, can show us that this and that are a singularity. That the moment of my unhappiness cannot be separated from a consciousness that meets that moment saying, I'm owed something better than that. So this conflict that we're almost always in produces what? A little transition before I get to the last part of the talk. What does this conflict produce? What do you think it produces? I've been talking about it all along. It produces wanting and not wanting. I never think to myself what I want and then think to myself, I wonder where that came from. No, when I have this feeling of what I want, it has always been born out of an unseen conflict of pain in this consciousness. All unconscious desire is a manifestation of an unconscious nature trying to find relief from itself by imagining sometime it will escape itself. It can't do it. So every conflict produces what I want, and accordingly, or what I don't want. Because I have a lot of conflict with things I don't want. And what I don't want doesn't exist without what I do want. And they seem to be opposites, but if you're understanding me, they're not opposites at all. They are simply the two sides of a coin in this consciousness that we don't understand, and that it's always flipping and finding on one side, and then we take the other side. But we can see, if we get all of this, that this wanting and not wanting has replaced our experience, the possibility of our experience of being in that place where, hang on, I shall not want. Doesn't mean I won't choose a pizza over a Pop-Tart. It means that I'm not in pain, either because of what I lost, what threatens what I have, or the fact that I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm not disturbed by any revelation of the moment because I have understood that this idea of I shall not want is the act of holiness itself instrumented by a human being. I am free. It means to be free of wanting. How about that? It's almost unimaginable, isn't it? To be free of wanting. How could I be free of wanting? The answer is because if I can see real life at all, I see that every single unfolding instant is an expression of holiness itself. Holiness itself. Not holiness because of this, and not because of holiness because of my God or this group of angels or this other insanity that I've called somehow these icons that I cling to. No. Unity, wholeness, holiness itself, because our true nature is created to participate in the act of holiness itself. In the act of holiness itself. Not the endless act of trying to make ourselves whole, which, if you've understood what I've been talking about, leads to endless ruination, endless conflict. So, last 10 minutes. Take a nice deep breath. What's the first thing that has to happen? And in some ways, these are all, I'll use the word, challenging moments. Because in order to see the truth of even this simple point that I've made already, but I'll now put a little polish on, to even suspect the truth of it, I don't know what's going to happen. And I want to know what's going to happen because I am already attached to and identified with whatever the image is of what has to be so I can be at peace with myself. Again, see the circle. I'm in pain because I'm certain what the nature of peace is. If I knew the nature of peace, I wouldn't be in pain, let alone pain another human being because they're disturbing my peace. The first step is to realize I have never known how to answer the question that appears in that disturbance. I've never known how to answer that question. You can lie till the cows come home, it doesn't change it. And the way you know that you've never known is because the peace, whatever it is that you imagine into existence, always passes. Something always comes along and knocks it down. Over and over and over again. It's incredible, really, to get to be whatever age you are and fail to recognize that every castle that you've ever built for yourself, it has a corresponding wave. The castle comes with the wave. It just does. That's because you're not meant to build and live in a castle made in your own image. You're meant to live in a kingdom that was created, and you along with it, wherein which there is constant peace that passes understanding, because nothing comes into that kingdom that isn't reconciled immediately upon its appearance in it. So, what do you think then would be the exercise? We have to get on to this. I'm going to have to wake up, aren't I? And I'm going to have to wake up right in the moment of that disturbance, which is challenging. And how do I wake up in the middle of that disturbance? By remembering to remember that I don't know that the answer that I'm about to get is a lie. Any answer that thought gives you to end some torment produced by a passing condition is the continuation of a tormented consciousness. But you have to go through it to see it. I can't change that. You just have to see it. And it's not enough to see it one time. It'd be like trying to play Beethoven's Ninth after practicing on the piano twice. No, it takes work. It takes immersion. And more than anything else, it takes the love of wanting to understand, to take you through all of the misunderstanding that you live with, that we all live with. So I must remember that I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know it. I sure feel like I do. My mind dregs up out of the past, all the things that make it seem right. I've got justified. I'm there. I know everything. People shouldn't treat me like that. And once I understand that to some extent I don't know the answer to the question at hand, then I have to, and this is all seamless, you'll see one day, I have to remember myself. I have to remember that there is a light that just showed me and helped me remember. I don't know the answer because it's mechanical. It's like dominoes. Click, 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 click. Conflict, answer, desire. Conflict, answer, desire. Just like that. That's what a mechanical mind is, what a man machine, a woman machine is. And then by the grace of God, in that darkness, a light dwells. And one day it goes, whoa, let's not go that way. And the mind will go, but I don't know what else to do. What am I doing? And then it'll go, you can't, and then you'll see it. You'll begin to remember these healing ideas without having to take thought about them. They'll be there for you because you are doing your best to be the incarnation of these principles, which is what you are. So you're really just aligning yourself with your own higher possibilities. And if we've seen what I've described is true, and I said this in the Insight Timer, I said, love, the real nature of love is justice, and justice is karma. So that call it what you will in the moment of this disturbance, life itself is saying there is a temporary imbalance. Life is saying, love is saying, I have come to help you not just see it, but to go through it with you if you will go into me, if you will give yourself to me, not my will, but thy will be done. If you will do that, I will begin to help you understand that what you are here is not to give back the way you imagine, but to give up whatever it is that still clings to that old life. There's a consciousness that clings to these images and ideas and beliefs and all of that. And that consciousness is the unseen source of the resistance. So how can the resistance resolve, let alone release itself? It can't. I must understand that disparity and see it with clarity enough to do what? Here's the exercise. I just called it, leave it to love. Please don't make the terrible mistake of imagining what that means. You hear it all the time. And I'm not belittling it. I'm certainly not denigrating it. Billions of human beings around the world all say, yes, Jesus will handle this. Yeah, Buddha wouldn't this. What would Lao Tse do? All of that is utterly futile. It may get you through a moment, but it doesn't change the consciousness responsible for the endless creation of that disturbance and the endless pursuit of another source of relief. Jews become Christians, Christians become Muslims, Muslims become Hindus, like some strange merry-go-round of madness on this planet where everybody constantly trying to escape the disturbance that they believe is produced by some challenging religion or some relationship that isn't what they want. So we're running and running and running instead of doing the one thing that we're meant to do, which is to stand there interior as a witness to the entire moment. That's why I call it leave it to love. Why leave it to love? Leave it to love to answer in her time, as you will and must learn by yourself, to answer in her time. What is the nature of that disturbance? By revealing it, and then effortlessly releasing you from that disturbance by showing you it has been reconciled if you will leave it to this intelligence, to this light, to this love, to do the only thing it's there to do. You just have to be there with it, doing as it would have you do. Not doing as you want to do, but one day it will be what you want to do, I might add. You'll be so glad, you'll be so grateful. You won't have a clue, you can't. What does it all mean? Where is it all going? All that's utter nonsense. It's enough just to know that something lives in you that wants for you more than you can imagine giving yourself. And that if you'll leave it to love, then in those moments that are disturbances, you'll discover there is a deliverance in the very disturbance itself. And you are delivered from yourself. You enter the moment one order of creature, you exit it another. Because you are doing what you have been given to do. In that moment, in that same moment, there is this action of being separated from an illusion. That's what waking up is. And you understand there is a divine action. And it is our conscious participation in that plan of that divine action where we discover this peace that passes all understanding. The only thing I didn't get in was the parable of the talents. I don't have time. But if you know it, you might put it together. A wealthy landowner was going far away on a journey, called his servants, and he gave each of them a talent, each one different, a talent, which was called something of value in those days. And when he came back, he asked each of them, what did they do with what they were given? And one made double, and he gets tenfold, another gets hundredfold, and one, fearing the master, said he buried it. And the master said, and you talk about politically incorrect, where you talk about, he said, you know what? What little you have, that's going to be taken from you, and you'll be thrown into the outer darkness where there'll be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. Why? Because you were so concerned with keeping that one little thing that you were given out of fear that it didn't dawn on you that you were given it so that you could begin to make something of it. You and I are given this nature that we can make something out of it by agreeing to let life show us what it is meant to be made into, which is a partner in this creation. Now I have to stop. We'll come back. Don't go away. We're going to have our dialogue, and we can look at these things together.
Hi, Guy. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. We are going to take just a quick break for me to give some announcements here. So you can stretch, get a glass of water, and then we'll go right into the Q&A with Guy. And just so you know, if you are on GoToWebinar and you wish to speak with Guy directly, you can raise your hand just by clicking or tapping the hand icon once, and that lets me know that you want to come online. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can jump over to GoToWebinar by going to guyfinley.org/class, and that will bring you into sign into GoToWebinar, and you can speak with Guy. While we just take a moment, I want to make sure that you all know about a special feature that we have on our website. We have what's called a wisdom school. It's an online wisdom school, and what we do is we take all of Guy's talks, all of his writings, his interviews, everything, and we put it up on our website into a special membership area that you can get access to easily for a very small fee each month. And you can learn more about it at guyfinley.org/wisdom. And it just gives you a great, huge searchable archive, that you can go through and watch and read Guy's materials on any topic. This is going back, my gosh, 15 years maybe of material.
You were on
So,
camera.
so you can go check that out at guyfinley.org/wisdom. And we have 3 levels of membership. And a couple of nice features of the Wisdom School, one is that you're able to get the access to the online replays of all of these classes, but we also put the downloadable MP3s and sometimes the video MP4s into the Wisdom School as well. So if you're someone who likes to download the MP3s and listen to them on the go, in the car, wherever, that's a nice way to get access to those. Plus, we also have an additional study group with members on Monday nights, which is just a great time for us to go more deeply into these ideas together. And lastly, another feature is that each month when we have a featured product, you actually get access to that for free as part of your membership if you've got a premium or all access membership. So if you have any questions about that, just reach out to us. I just wanted to make sure that you know about that extra resource. It's also a great way to support the foundation, just a small monthly fee of $15 or $16 a month for all access. So that's something that you can look into. All right, Guy, we are ready to go with our Q&A. I have 4 written questions already, and I see Joan has her hand up in the queue, but let me go ahead and bring in this first question since I'm on here. This is a question that came in from Carl.
Hold on 1 second, Kate.
Oh, sure.
YouTubers and anyone else catching some stream, you may not be able to hear Kate as clearly as you would like, and we're going to work to clarify that, especially when I travel. For now, I will reread the question that she is reading that the webinar people can hear, so that we can all be on the same page. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, thank you, Guy. I meant to say that and didn't. All right, so here is the first question from Carl. He says, is there a difference between wanting a new career for yourself if the old one is no longer serving you? So basically, is one allowed to have preferences in life without being consumed by them? Do you agree with people that have very hard discipline, like people in the Army, Marines, etc.?
Let me answer your question in a slightly different way than you might have asked it, Carl. If you're drawn to do something, particularly if you are or have lost the love of something former, then you are drawn to that because there is still an education in it for you. We discover ourselves through the choices that we make or that are made for us by this consciousness I've described. I'm drawn to the things I'm drawn to for the impressions that I take from them. The impressions are the food, because an impression is the realization of a corresponding part of my own consciousness, so that I discover the content of myself, the possibilities of myself through the things that I'm drawn to. Eventually, we see the futility of being drawn to certain things because we know we're being delivered into punishment and hell. But if I'm drawn to a new job because there's something in it that I'm attracted to, that's great. But if I'm drawn to a new job just because I want to make some more dough, you might as well stay in the old one because nothing's going to change at all. But go ahead and do that. Get the new job, get the dough, go spend the dough, and still see everything that I've described is true. There is no escape. Look, it said there is but one path. I'm describing it to you for every human being, and that is that we must deliberately use our experiences to discover through the exploration of the consciousness responsible for them the truth of ourselves. Doesn't matter how we get there. What matters is that we intend to see, to learn, discover, and then be delivered ultimately from what we have misunderstood about the purpose of our life. Lastly, discipline has a place, but too often discipline becomes what one believes delivers them from the pain of their life. So they spend their life in some disciplinary action against themselves, believing the conflict they feel is their responsibility to fulfill themselves. That's useless and a waste. On we go, Kate.
All right, I now have 2 hands up in the queue and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. So people are really on fire today. Let's go to Joan next.
Hello, Guy. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Joni.
I found this talk very interesting, Guy. And I don't know if this, I have a question. I don't know how relevant this is. You were talking about the passive and the active, the yin and the yang, and the opposites coming together for union, like a marriage. And I had a question. Before the fall, you were saying they were already there. And I thought, is the fall of man actually talking about the first separation of the opposites?
No, the first separation of the opposites was not the fall of man. And I just would hasten to say that in the scheme of things, if it's just a passing interest, it's useless. People get hung up on all this Garden of Eden. Creation gave rise to creation. The 1 gave rise to 2, the 2 gave rise to 3, the 3 gave rise to all that is universally created. That is a descending line of creation. And with each descending line of creation, everything is more and more incomplete and more dependent upon the kingdom above it to bring it into that reconciliation with the beginning, the vine and the branch. So all of that is a constant movement. To misunderstand that is to try to figure out with the mind, what was this and why is that? All of that mentality, that mentation spells disaster. Do you know that if we were able, which one day we will, you will, just to be present enough to the mind that asks a question with anxiety or fear or worry, in the very moment of being present to that question, every answer to every question we will ever have will be revealed, because the content, that consciousness will be illuminated. You'll see it, all its moving parts. We have a machine. The machine runs us. But when the light comes in, when the intelligence that created the machine takes its proper place above the machine's understood, and it can't go foul. So that's the best I can do, Joni.
Yeah, so we're falling, we're not present to the moment, not aware. We're falling then. I mean, just
Yeah, okay, good. Here's a good exercise. You want to know what falling is? When you fall into thought that's trying to explain to you why you feel the way you do, you've fallen.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, I'm going to come on and read this question that came in from Lisa on Facebook. She asks, so even if I don't feel life owes me, if I have a disturbance, then it means that somewhere I'm holding a feeling of being owed?
Yes, Lisa. 100%. How can I feel like I got shortchanged unless I didn't get the money I expected? Sorry for the metaphor, but you get the point. Yeah, that's exactly right, Lisa. We always have, it's so weird too. When you think about how fortunate we are, as most of us are as Westerners or whatever country we live with, and we have enough food and clothing and stuff. Yeah, how often are you grateful? Gratitude should be, and I don't mean that we should imagine it, but gratitude should be something that moves through us at the same time that love reconciles these disturbances. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be the instrument of this life, of this love. Not I'm grateful because of what I have. That's beautiful. We often share our gratitude for the bounty of our lives. That's appropriate. But the real gratitude is in the relationship that is being given to us by grace, by which we can see we are given everything that we need before we ask it, and that nothing is taken from us, that we aren't given what we need in that moment to reconcile that disturbance. That's gratitude. So yes, Lisa, that's my answer.
All right, we are going to go on to Larry. He has his hand up in the queue.
Hello, Guy and Kate. I really appreciate your work. I'm grateful to be here, and just have a couple of thoughts I wanted to see if I hope I can say it right. But you mentioned that if going back to the scripture, if God is my shepherd, I shall not want. Would that mean, in my understanding, would mean that I would not want to respond or need to respond in any negative way that I have in my consciousness, and therefore let God answer it in His way.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's not bad, Larry. When we awaken even a little bit, we will see that all of our needs, which is what is my need? What is my real need? Is my real need to have the great car, to be this, seen that? Or is my real need just to be at peace with myself? Not to cause, is my real need to be innocent? My real need to be kind? My real need to be the things that I've already been given? That's my real need. And when I understand that real need is never not being answered in every single moment of my life, then I can't get caught up in what you just described, because you nailed it. Now we must become the instrument of that understanding, Larry. You're on the right track. Let's go on, Kate. I see Selma's question. I'll read it, Kate. That'll save us some time. So Selma. Hi, Selma. Hi, Guy. Thank you for today's class and your commitment to teaching this wisdom. So if I understand this correctly, when we are facing making a decision that we view as important, the best way to go about it would be to just sit with it and wait for the answer to come instead of think about it or just go with what we usually do. Thank you. Yeah, look, let's not make rules, Selma. Rules are a way in which we try to find security, only to find out that life is forever messing with the rules that we set. We don't need rules, we need presence. So maybe there's a moment I have to make a decision. The waitress is standing there. She wants to know, do I want a fish sandwich or do I want a fish taco? I can't go and say, give me a moment, I want to talk this over with God. No, I have to make a decision. And then, and by the way, usually no matter what decision we make like that, we're always in conflict anyway. So the answer here is, if I have to make a decision and I have the time to sit with it, let me study. Let me see everything coming up. I always want everything to go away as fast as it can. Let's just go away. Isn't that true? Just go away. Stop. Go away, kid. You're bothering me. Just let me stay with the awareness of the disturbance long enough to discern for myself what its real nature is. And the clarity of seeing its real nature is the same as me coming into the essence of that moment, of this consciousness and its response to the divine, so that then I can begin to make new choices based on a new relationship that I have with the moment, with the divine, and with myself, which is a singularity, the Trinity. Let's go on, Kate.
All right, no hands up at the moment, but I just texted you a question from Vimy.
Hi, Vimy. So Vimy says, I'm called to write fiction. I'm in my late 50s now and have written a novel which sits in the proverbial drawer. I have a new project I'm working on for a year now, but my question is, am I following my purpose, even if I never get published and no one ever lays their eyes on my art? If yes, why am I so resistant to it? To clarify, why am I resistant to working just for the joy of it, regardless of outcome, when I also know that art writing is meant to be shared? Yeah, welcome to the plight of the artist. If we have a love of something, the real reward is in the love of it. But that's what it means to be a human, to be drawn to something that for my attraction to it what is revealed in my consciousness is a reflection of the divine that put that longing in me, so that love draws me to love. Experience draws me to experience. Depth, breadth, height, color, dimension, time. I'm drawn to these things as an artist because I'm drawn to discover myself through what my mind has made out of an image. I have an image, an idea to write a book. I have the image, the feeling of writing a book because something in me wants to educate itself through the exercise. But that's never enough for this consciousness, the Sphinx, the animal and the human, because the animal doesn't do anything without eating. It wants to consume something. It wants to be validated. So, and I speak from really direct experience here, Vimy. I'll never forget the day I had become a successful composer, writing musical scores. I was a Motown recording artist, side publishing company, and I was the most happy human being on the world in those early days, in my early 20s, late teens. I had achieved what most I know didn't achieve. And yet within a couple of years, I'm sitting at my piano in a home in Malibu that I could afford, and I'm banging my head because I'm realizing I'm not writing out of love anymore. I'm writing because I want to keep in place the image of myself, as was written about in Variety or wherever it was. I want to continue to be seen in the way that now I'm dependent upon being seen. And that's not just in the eyes of others, that's in my own eyes. So the answer is, in truth, it makes no difference. If you have a love for something, give your love to that love. Nothing but love can come out of it. But be aware of how when I love something, something always sneaks into it and wants to be loved for what I love. And that's hell. Wanting to be loved is a form of hell. Why is it a form of hell? Because you're already loved. And anything that you imagine as being loving to you immediately separates you from the understanding that if someone or something does love you, it cannot be separated from the conditions the divine put together that you might experience the divine in yourself. I hope that helps, Vimy. On we go, Kate.
All right, I have 4 written questions, but Tony has raised her hand, so let's bring her in.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very clear. Hi, Tony.
Okay, good. Hi. I just wanted to share a recent experience that completely reflects what you state today. And it made me realize that, we're all mirrors. Every encounter, we're all a mirror of each other.
Yes.
And I think the moment we need to reflect each other. And then there comes a time where you see that perfect reflection, and then you see eternity, right? Eternal images, right? Back and forth. It's like infinity, rather. Infinity, eternity, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's a great way to crystallize what you're saying, because recently there's this colleague I have who I feel doesn't like me for whatever reason. And there was a gathering arranged at their place, and I was trying to think of an excuse to get out of it. And I was so grateful because another colleague had an excuse. And so I chirped in and said, oh yes, I won't be around either, And, but they didn't see the email. And so the next day when I came into work, they started saying, I guess you got the email, in their usual brash way. And I said, oh, didn't you get my reply? I'm not able to come.
Yeah.
And he was so distraught that I realized it was important. It was that important to them. So I changed my plans and I came. The next day I just said, oh, guess what? Something came up. I am going to be and I realized that there's something in me that no matter what I think of you, I do want peace. I do want harmony. And it was weird. I've never thought myself that way, but I just wanted to, I didn't mean to create this sense of separation,
I understand. And look, all of this, as I like to say, is invaluable grist for the mill. Every one of these experiences gives us a momentary insight into something that ordinarily would not have been part of the way we look at these moments. And when that continues to take place, then we have growing in us a continuing interest in making these discoveries, so we're not so fast to discount or resist or reject these moments or these relationships. So, yes, Tony, thumbs up. Keep up your good work. Keep exploring and being willing to see the truth of Tony. That's everything. Let's go on, Kate.
All right, we have another hand up, but I'm going to slip in this question from Susanna. Did you want to go ahead and read that one too, Guy?
Sure. So anything that disturbs us, hurts us, is an unresolved, unconscious issue in our lives? Question mark. We create resistance to the recurrent painful issue. We try to solve the painful situation by using our own limited, recurrent human solutions instead of placing the solution in the divine celestial hands. So there's a couple main points here, Susanna, and I'll address them quickly. It is not we who create resistance to these recurring painful moments. The recurring resistance is to any condition that challenges the conditioned consciousness that enters into that moment, believing it is owed something that it recognizes and wants. It is not I who resists life, not real I, Susanna. But there is a legion of I's, a legion of personas, of different aspects of self created over time through incomplete experience that then gave birth to more incomplete experience by trying to figure out how to escape the incomplete experience. And that's always in front of us. This is why Christ said, I go before you to make the crooked places straight. I am with you before you get there so that you can see you're getting ready to relive the same consciousness that you believe is you. It is not, will you wait and see if there's another will to act from? And if we do that, then we can begin to explore the new possibilities that are inherent in this higher perception of our own experience. I hope that helps, Susanna. Let's go on, Kate.
All right, Beatrice has her hand up, and she also sent in sent in a note, so maybe she wants to just ask you herself. So here she is.
Okay.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking the time and effort to be from far away, taking care of us. We appreciate that very much.
Yes, Beatrice.
In regards to the question, Guy, of the law, I've been having this in my heart. The law, to some extent, if we just receive that passive, inert law, it doesn't catch up with the moment that is being created every time that we have a situation. So it's kind of far behind and cannot respond properly to the versatility of the moment. The moment is so fresh, so singular every time that I wonder, maybe the best thing is just to put it in our hearts, ponder it, and the Holy Spirit, who is the wisdom, the discernment, and he has the rhythm, the pace of life, he can come and inspire us and prompt in us the correct direction for our response to the event in life that we need to decide on, because he is part of that creation. So he doesn't need to catch up. He's already in the movement of the new moment being born every moment. And we need to be like surfers with the waves.
Yes.
We cannot be with only outdated rules and laws. Is that correct, Guy?
Look, from your mouth to God's ears, Beatrice, let me work as best I can. This is always the answer. Let me work as best I can to understand these moments where I keep meeting these conditions, different people, different places, but the same basic setup where I keep running into myself. I didn't get it in the talk, but when this balancing, this divine balance is intended to take place, and it doesn't because we're busy trying to balance everything ourselves, there is karma has a kind of an accrued interest. And that interest, as it accrues, brings back these moments we don't want in spades until at last we recognize we are not learning this lesson. What you've described is an action to take to enter into these moments, again, as best we can, to see everything that we can, to be as present as we can, and let what happens happens because we see it as the necessity of being present in the moment. So no arguments, no corrections, just let's work at it, Beatrice. I'm off. I mean, I'm done with that. Let's go on, Kate.
All right, I'm going to send you a question that came in from Annette.
Yes.
And just a quick note that I'm getting a thumbs up from people on YouTube that they're hearing very well. So just letting you know.
I'm so glad. So glad. So Annette, hi Annette. Annette asks, so when we think we see a situation clearly, but we go back naively and hope for a more positive interaction, then we again face the reality that it is what it is, and we would rather move forward and grow. Is that growing up? Let me read it again. When we think we see a situation clearly, but we go back naively, I think she's saying, but we go back and basically repeat what we've done, hoping to have a more positive. That's the definition of insanity, isn't it, Annette? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That in that moment, the reality that is what it is, yes, it is, and we would rather move forward and grow. Yes, that's always the deal. But see, Annette's asked a great question, and everybody's going to benefit from it. Hold your breath, everybody. Here we go. You cannot grow into the known. When the mind sees these things, well, of course I can't grow into the known. The known is the past. The known is imagined. I grow by entering into the unknown, where I find out that there is another order of knowing waiting to take me through that moment. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So, good question, Annette. I hope I answered it. Let me meet these moments, and rather than running back into the known, into thought, into the next solution, the next anger, the next resentment, let me set that down for as long as I can, and let me see what comes up as a result of my willingness to trust another order of understanding. Back to you, Kate.
All right, we are right at 11 o'clock. I have one written question, but Eric says he also wants to pop on to say something really quick. So shall we let him go and then end with the written question?
I think that's a plan.
Okay, come on in, Eric.
Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Your talk today, excuse me, made me think of a line from Shakespeare, and it's in the form of a question. He says, "Shall we serve heaven with less respect than we do minister to our gross selves?"
Yeah.
And the thing is, also going along with a lot of what you said, is we don't have to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly.
We just have to see that it's true.
Yes, that's right.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what
This consciousness is doing, ministering to itself and all the pain that comes out of that. And I also don't even have to wonder, well, then what do I do to serve heaven?
Yes, that's right.
That's not even necessary either, just to see that it's true. That's it.
Yes, that's a good comment, Eric. And of course, Shakespeare was quite illuminated. In essence, as you grow into this understanding, and this understanding begins to flourish and nourish your soul, you'll see the question appear, and it wouldn't even dawn on you to think towards the question that the mind is asking, because you understand, if the mind's asking a question, it didn't understand the moment. I'm going to say it again. If the mind is asking a question, it didn't understand the moment. And the understanding is inherent in the movement of the moment. Beautiful. Last one, Kate.
All right, I am texting you a question from Frida.
Okay. Hi, Frida. Hello, Guy. She said that, not me talking to myself. During the talk, something wanted to pull me back to sleep, and I was fighting it at first, but then I thought I have to stay with myself and breathe, and felt it go away. But then what I saw was if I really want a different life, I have to leave this unconscious alone and not interfere anymore. Just watch. And whatever I felt, all pain is one and the same pain, even if you're giving it a different name. What do you think about that? Greetings from Frida. In the parable of the talents, each was given a measure, a gift, something that could be used to create understanding, in quotes, wealth. Each took their measure and acted accordingly, given what they understood the measure they were given and what could be done with it according to their understanding. You and I are always given, in one respect, every moment of our life, though we don't see it, a talent. That's a coin, something of value. It is what we do with what we are given that determines what we will be given next in the appropriate measure. Give what you have been given to your wish to understand it, Frida. You're given that so that you might give yourself through that more understanding. Just do that. Imagine, if you will, I'm given something. Let me see what I can see about it. That turns what you're given into a new kind of understanding. That new understanding leads increasingly to a peace that passes all the questions, all the concerns and the fears that this consciousness never stops coming up with. That'll do it.
All right. Ooh, this is a great class, and there was a lot of activity both here on GoToWebinar and Facebook and YouTube, and I will send all the comments to Guy and the team afterwards. Yeah, Guy, just so you know, you're still live on the multicast, even though you signed off on GoToWebinar. I just want you to know that.
He's back. Yeah.
I'm just going to wrap up really quick, everyone. Just a reminder that the replays will go up just after class. And you can join us again on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. Go to our website, to our events page, if you want to see all of the... are you trying to bring Patricia over?
Yeah, I'm telling Patricia to come in and say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
No, wait. There she is.
Hello, everyone.
There she is, Patricia. We miss you. All right. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just reach out to us on our website. Thanks again, Guy. And thank you, everyone. And Guy, I'll go ahead and end the event, and we'll see you next time.